I think this is the last garden tour before those tomatoes are actually in the garden. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Rachel. Welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. This is my weekly garden tour where I show you guys what's going on in the garden, talk about what's going well and what's not going well, and how I'm solving any problems that come up. It is an absolutely beautiful day outside. It is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 18-ish Celsius, and it's looking really good for spring planting. We've got a couple of days coming up with lows in the 40s, and I could go ahead and plant my tomatoes out now, but there's also a bunch of rain coming, and while that would probably be good for the tomatoes, I'm just gonna wait until right after the rain when the ground is soaked and it starts warming up. I think that'll be the perfect time to put out all the tomato starts. I'm also planning on putting out the marigold starts and probably a lot of the little herb starts that I have as well. As soon as the tomatoes get planted out, I'm going to up pot the peppers. Peppers are not going out for at least another month. I always wait until May to put them out because they don't want temperatures at night that are below 50 degrees. Like, it won't kill them, but they definitely won't be as productive if you put them out while the temperature is still getting below 50 at night. Alright, so let's take a look at what's actually in the garden currently. I've still got all of my garlic right here. The little spinaches that were here, they just kept getting eaten, and now they are little nubs. I don't think that those are going to come back, but that's okay. That's not the only spinach that I had out here. And garlic still looking absolutely amazing. I do have this like slight fear that I haven't planted enough garlic, but I know that that's silly because last year I had about twice as much garlic as I really needed. Like, I still haven't gone through all the garlic, and I've been drying it. I made garlic powder. I stored some of it in vinegar like I showed you guys in a previous video, and I gave a lot of it away, and still have like tons of garlic. So the fact that I have about half as much here as I did last year, that's not an actual problem, but it's still I'm still anxious about whether or not there will be enough because it looks like so little compared to last year. Does anyone else identify with that feeling of like looking at your little tiny plants and just like wondering if you've done enough? So in the second row of the garden, I've got onions down the center instead of garlic, and I do have 3 lettuces here. You can actually see them on camera now because they're big enough. I hadn't intended on putting lettuces here, but I had so many extra starts, and all the extras that you saw I did give to my mom. She was able to plant out about 90% of them, so they did get a home. And if we go farther down here, I was supposed to have turnips right here, but they got killed by a frost. However, the radish section is looking quite good. These are floofing up nicely. They're a little crowded, but I'm not really pressed to do anything about it because I don't, you guys know I'm a little bit of a lazy gardener. I have seen some carrot sprouts in here previously. Right now I am struggling to find them, but I'm sure they're here somewhere. And the idea was originally radishes grow up so fast that they would like kind of space out the carrots properly. The thing I didn't account for was the fact that most of my carrots wouldn't even come up. So yeah, difference between what I was expecting and what happened, but at least I'm getting some good radishes. Okay, I'm coming over to sit on my plants. Farther down the row is a bunch of weeds and some potatoes. This grass is all coming up from the straw, which I find to be really annoying. It makes me not want to use straw mulch. I'm actually going to be looking into other options, but I'm not entirely sure which direction I'm going to go right now. But this grass is really annoying. Anyway, there are a ton of purple potatoes coming up. If you remember, these previously had come up and then got killed by a frost. Everything above the ground died back, but they are coming back nicely now that it's warm. And the other potatoes over here coming up beautifully. And since there's no more frosts in the forecast, I am pretty confident that these will do just fine. I'm very excited to have more of these purple potatoes. Yep, you did just come here to sit on my plants, didn't you? I think she's sitting directly on top of a potato. So a lot of the onions in my garden are onions from last year that sprouted, so I just stuck them in the ground. And now they are making flowers, which is what second-year onions tend to do. So this is going to be really beautiful with a bunch of little puff flowers. And I'm going to get hopefully some good seeds to try and start onions from seed next year. So far I have not done a very good job starting onions from seed. I've been trying, and I'm still not really solid on when to plant them, so I keep messing up, but eventually I will get it, and you guys will see it when I do. So looking at the third row here with the trellis, again I've got onions and garlic on the outsides here as well, and peas on the inside. These are actually putting up new sprouts from the ground, which seems to be a really healthy thing for them to do. All of this growth right here looks new and lovely. All of that is great, although with the way that the weather goes here, it goes from pretty cold to way too hot so fast. I think we've got a high in the 80s coming up, and peas aren't going to like that very much. So I'm really interested to see if these even actually produce anything for me. In the future, when I have more space and resources, I might have to grow things like peas and honestly cilantro and lettuce underneath a shade cloth coming into the spring, just because, like I said, it gets hot so fast here. Past the trellises are my 2 rows of fava beans, a little section of onions. I actually forgot until it came up again that I had an extra purple potato here competing with my fava beans. I'm gonna let it live because, well, it seems to be doing a good job, and I don't necessarily need this one fava bean plant, but as y'all know, I really like just letting things live and seeing what happens, because it's really good education for me and for you guys to understand what happens, like for example when 2 plants are really crowded together. Alright, and out here at the end of row 4, I've got my Brussels sprouts that are going to seed. These ones over here are actually starting to open their flowers, which is really pretty. These are great for the bees, and great for making seeds for me to be able to plant from seed again next year. My poppies, they're looking a little crowded here, but they are all still alive, which is lovely. And I'll have to look into how bad it is that they're crowded and see if I need to do anything about it. But for now, I'm just letting the strongest survive. Also got some onions around here. A lot of the onions are in different states. Like if you look at this one, it's quite a bit smaller than this one next to it, which were planted at the same time. And they're obviously in like the same soil, same lighting conditions. And I just want to point out that sometimes some plants grow slower than others, and it's not always your fault as a gardener. Sometimes that's just what happens. And if you were to plant only like 1 or 2 of a thing, and that happened to be the one that grew slow or small, it might be really hard for you to tell that it's not your fault and it's just that plant. Which is why I don't want anybody to put too much stock in how a plant is doing if it's like their only one. Alright, as we're coming down to the end here, I've got all my lettuces here. They're growing so fast. I think these are about ready to start having baby greens picked off of them. I could probably take like 2 leaves off of each of these and have myself a small salad. But since it's warming up, the growth will only accelerate here, and eventually I'll have trouble keeping up, I think. Also interesting to look at again, these are started at the same time from seed as this, but just planted out a couple of weeks later. So the amount of growth that this has had, having access to all of the nutrients in the soil, versus this that stayed in its little pod for a little bit longer, it does make a difference. If we just take a quick look over here at the herbs, not a lot has changed. Cilantro is still going to seed. This sage flower hasn't opened up yet. It's being a little slow. And I actually did harvest like a bunch of thyme off of this on this side, and you can't even tell anymore because it just floofed out again immediately. I probably should harvest a little bit more off of it while it's all still fresh and lovely. And it is going to flower. Those cute little flowers. I think that's absolutely lovely. I did plant some backup carrots in this container, this fabric container, and they are still doing pretty good. They are a little crowded here in the middle, but I don't want to have to thin them because it's such a struggle to get carrots to come up as it is. Eventually I might have to make that decision though if they seem to be really crowding each other out. And then in this raised bed here, I've got this kale, which is being very eaten, but still trying really hard to survive. And a spinach that I think is trying to flower already. And just a couple more lettuces. These actually are not looking quite as healthy as the ones out in the ground, and I bet it's just because this is such a new space. It doesn't have a whole lot of soil life built into it yet. Hasn't really settled in. So not super concerned about the fact that these lettuces don't look like they're doing quite as well. Alright, and lastly, a quick look at the berry patch. The strawberries have so many flowers on them, and there are actually little berries coming in. I'm very excited about my first strawberries. I actually planted this plant last year. It was just this last year. It didn't make any strawberries at all, and then it exploded sideways into all of this, and now it's making its very first berries, which I am super excited about. Raspberries are still in the process of making their buds, but it looks like I will get spring fruit out of this plant. Last week I showed you guys this rosemary where just half of it died. A lot of you suggested that maybe an animal came and peed on it, which I think is very likely, considering all the animals running around. I've had such a hard time keeping rosemary alive in this place. This is like my third or fourth rosemary plant. So that's disappointing. However, I might get a second one just in case this one does fully die. Previously, I kept trying to establish rosemary in this corner of my house, and like twice in a row, it just died for no apparent reason. I think there must be something weird about the dirt around here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised given that it's like right next to the house and these are really, really old houses. Who knows? I've dug up so many weird things out of the dirt in this area. So by next week, hopefully all of the tomatoes will be planted out, and from there things are going to start accelerating really quickly. Like I'm already seeing the growth very visibly from week to week, whereas during the winter it was very slow. It didn't feel like a lot was happening. So all of that is very exciting. If you haven't already and you like these garden tours, you should go ahead and subscribe so that you catch them every single week. But if you're already behind, I'm going to go ahead and put up playlists here for this year and last year for you to check out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.